welcome. Thank you to everybody who's joining us today for our inaugural Shine the Light Walking Vigil to shine the light on domestic violence in our community. It's an alarming statistic that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men are victims of domestic violence. And here's another statistic that I learned just yesterday, that approximately 50% of all homeless women become homeless because they're leaving domestic violence. Domestic violence is pervasive and damaging to future generations who learn violent behavior and continue the cycle. The time is now for us to ramp up awareness and to foster a change in behavior so that we can end the cycle of domestic violence. The threat of violence behind closed doors in one's home, the place that should be a place of refuge and sanctuary for us, needs to be eliminated from our society. We do this by events like this, where we talk about domestic violence. We let victims know that we are here for them. We have their back. Together, we can break the silence of abuse. The city is very blessed. The great city of Costa Mesa is very blessed to work with Human Options to achieve these objectives. Human Options is committed to a future in which every person and every family in Orange County is safe, has healthy relationships, and lives free from fear. We support that commitment in the city of Costa Mesa, and we are here to be part of the solution. Now, I'd like to welcome my good friend, Assemblymember Cotta petrie-norris, who works so hard for us in Sacramento to provide what our community needs. She's always here for us. She's always here for the vulnerable in our community. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Assemblymember Cotta petrie-norris.
Well, thank you, Mayor Stevens, and good evening, everyone. I am Assemblywoman Cotta petrie-norris, and I am really pleased to be able to be here with all of you tonight to shine the light on domestic violence in our community. As Mayor Stevens said, domestic violence is tragically pervasive, touching so many of our families. And in the State Assembly, addressing domestic violence has been one of my priorities. I have authored legislation to expand technology and resources available for domestic violence hotlines. I've also authored legislation to improve domestic violence restraining orders and to keep guns out of the hands of domestic abusers. I'm also proud to be part of the Assembly's Select Committee on Domestic Violence. But I'm not just here as an Assemblywoman. I'm here because this is personal for me. I, like so many children across the state of California, like so many families, my family was touched by domestic violence. I had a stepfather who was physically and emotionally abusive. And so I know, like so many women, like so many families, I know how that feels. I know the fear, and I also know the shame that can come with it. And that's why I'm here. And I'm so grateful to all of you and the work that you are doing to shine a light on domestic violence across our country and to work to end domestic violence in our communities. So with that, I am so pleased to welcome our Supervisor Katrina Foley.
Good evening. And this issue is something that is near and dear to my heart. Just this week, we donated from our office $1.5 million for apartment units at Wise Place Women's Shelter to help those women who are survivors of domestic violence to be able to have stable lives and to live in an apartment, a permanent apartment that is their own. So why do I care about that? Well, much like our Assemblywoman, my life as a girl was not without violence from a terrible, evil stepfather. And so I think that many of us who care about these issues and who work on them have had some family experience. And while I'm not a victim ever, I do think that it creates a strength in those of us who've survived those lifestyles, and it also helps you to want to help others. When I went to law school, I formed the Domestic Violence Women's Clinic, and we helped to, with landlord-tenant help, with restraining orders, we helped to help women to take care of their taxes, get child care, and coincidentally, 26 years later, Senator Dave Menn's wife had been running that clinic that became a full-blown clinic at the law school that I attended. So we all are here to shine a light on the need for all of us to, if we see something, say something. Don't just ignore. If you see a friend that is maybe struggling or you think that has been in pain or physically, even emotionally assaulted, lean into that person and help them because they want help. They don't want you to just ignore it and pretend like nothing is happening. So thank you to everybody organizing this. And yes, let's keep shining the light. Thank you.
All right, now I'd like to call up from the great District 5 of the city of Costa Mesa, Arlis Reynolds, to say a few words.
Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. I'm really happy to be doing this event. 4 years ago, when I was elected, I met the Human Options team, and we've been talking a lot. They've been educating us a lot on what's happening in our community, and any incident of violence is too much, and unfortunately, we've had an increase in violence in our community over the last few years. So I appreciate everyone for being here tonight and our staff for working with Human Options and our police department to put this event together. This event is to raise awareness, but also to relaunch a partnership between our staff, between Human Options, with our police department and with our community. We know that it's very difficult for people to leave a situation of domestic violence, woman or man, and we really need our community to come together. Costa Mesa has been working really hard and successfully over the last few years to grow partnerships with our community organizations, and tonight is a perfect example of that. I'm so thankful for the Human Options team, for the resources that they provide in our community, for our staff for continuing to build bridges with our community organizations, and to our police department and our police chief, Ron Lawrence, for really leaning into this partnership to address this issue that's so important in our community. So thank you, Chief. I'll invite you up to share a little bit. Tonight is the start of a renewed partnership here in Costa Mesa to address the issue of domestic violence, and I'm really happy to have all of you here with us to do that.
Thank you, Councilmember Reynolds. We have a fantastic city council here in Costa Mesa, and as your police chief, I'm just honored to work shoulder to shoulder with them in keeping our community safe. And I want to acknowledge my colleague, our fire chief, Dan Stefano, who's here. And when we talk about domestic violence and all of the things public safety related, our firefighters, our police officers serving this community day in and day out, they see the real interface of keeping people safe. And my heart goes out to them. All of our officers, thank you. All of our officers and our firefighters at one point in their career have responded to domestic violence calls where they interact with partners and families going through a crisis, myself included. Throughout my career, I've seen way far too many instances of domestic violence. What I know is domestic violence has no bounds. There's no social economic bound. It can strike any community. It can strike any family. It does not discriminate. It's not just about domestic violence in a relationship either. There's kids involved quite often who witness what happens and become a cycle of violence because they learn. They learn from a behavior that seems to them to be acceptable at that age. And then we have generations of learned behavior. And as the mayor said, this makes this a pervasive issue and a pervasive crime. So there needs to be a time to think about holistic approaches to this. And this is why I'm just so honored to be here partnering with Human Options and making an awareness of our issues and taking a better, stronger approach. The police department plays a role in this approach to ending domestic violence, and we're here to assist with the prevention and the protection of our families and all of our residents, especially the vulnerable and the young members of our community. Education is key, and it's this key to our success. Resources are also a fundamental issue for our community. The foundation of a healthy and happy family leads to a stronger community. We as officers and our firefighters, we know firsthand how domestic violence affects our community. Our communities are the community that we're tasked with protecting. This is why we partner with local organizations like Human Options. They're here to help domestic violence victims become survivors and to heal, and they in turn empower our community to end domestic violence. We stand with you, Human Options. And on that note, I would like to invite my new friend, Human Options CEO Marcela Rios-Faust, to the podium to say a few words.
I guess there's worse friends I could have. I'm just kidding. I want to thank all of you for being here. Human Options really does believe that this is a coordinated community response that's needed to end domestic violence. And to all of you that are here, thank you for being here and wanting to learn more. There's a couple of things that we know here at Human Options. Number one is you have to provide a safe place for people to tell their story. And oftentimes it's when they begin to share the story that discomfort becomes really, really noticeable. A year ago, I was at a meeting with a group of men, and I had this opportunity to share the work of Human Options. And these men had been together for about 20 years, and they said to me, "What are the statistics about domestic violence?" And much like the mayor shared, I said 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men. And one of the men in the group leans back and he says, "Are you kidding me? You mean to tell me that 1 in 4 women?" I said, "Yes, 1 in 4 women, and 1 in 7 men." And yes. And I said, "And 1 in 3 people know somebody who's been affected by domestic violence." And to that I got, no way. He counts around the room and he's like, "There's 10 of us here. We've known each other for 20 years. That would mean 3 of us in this room know someone who's been affected by domestic violence." And I sat there super uncomfortable because I don't spew statistics because people tend not to listen. And so I sat there and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the worst situation I backed myself into. And one of the men raised his hand and he said, "My daughter has been in an abusive relationship and it took us 2 years to get her out of it." And they all looked at him completely dumbfounded. And then the next man raised his hand and he said, "My son was in an abusive relationship." And so it went. And to me, that day really proved that you just never know who is in an abusive situation. And to provide a place where you could tell your story is the key to really ending and shining a light on domestic violence. That's what tonight is. If we don't get ahead of it, if we're not able to shine a light, then people lose their lives. And every life lost is a call to action. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate the city's partnership and participation. This is one of many ways that we can show victims that they matter and to counter the message that they hear every single day, which is no one cares about you. Thank you so much for being here. Please join us as we walk on the vigil. We will be going around 4 different times. Take some time to read the stories that you see and know that those lives we can prevent more from being impacted by domestic violence.